President Trump has lashed out again at NATO allies, accusing them of failing to help the US-Israeli war against Iran. Posting on Truth Social, he said the US does not need its help with the war. It comes as the Defense Secretary says it's highly likely Russia was sharing intelligence with Iran and training Iranians in areas like drone warfare before the war in the Middle East. Here's our correspondent, Alison Freeman.
Mr. President, come on out.
An ever-confident US president in the face of denials from Iran. Donald Trump told a fundraising event for the Republicans that negotiations are taking place, but the Iranians were just too scared to admit it.
And they are negotiating, by the way, and they want to make a deal so badly, but they're afraid to say it because they figure they'll be killed by their own people. They're also afraid they'll be killed by us.
This morning on social media, President Trump doubled down, describing Iran as begging for a deal with the US, adding that their military had been obliterated and there was zero chance of a comeback. He warned they'd better get serious soon because once it happened, there's no turning back. But Iran continues to deny that talks are taking place.
I state firmly that there has been no negotiation or dialogue with the American side. However, in recent days, the American side has begun sending various messages through different intermediaries.
Whilst the US and Iran continue their war of words, the war on the ground continues. But in the UK, talk has turned to what the British Defence Secretary has called an axis of aggression between Russia and Iran, with both regimes supporting each other.
Our defence intelligence assessment confirms that ahead of this conflict, Russia was sharing intelligence with Iran, was providing training to Iran. And it should surprise no one because we've seen Iran supplying drones to Russia to launch on Ukraine. And it should surprise no one that we've got the hidden hand of Putin in Iran, just as we have in Ukraine.
Today, at a meeting with his allies at a major European defence summit in Helsinki, the Prime Minister said talks would be centred on both the wars in Iran and Ukraine.
The focus here is very much on Russian aggression in Ukraine, and we have to accept that there's a war on two fronts. There's the Iranian conflict and the continuing Ukrainian conflict. Today I'll be talking to allies about what more we can do. Of course there'll be discussions about defence spend, also defence capability.
As NATO released its annual report this morning, Donald Trump also took aim on social media at its member countries, saying they'd done nothing to help the US with the war and that they should never forget this important point in time. Alison Freeman, BBC News.
Well, in a moment, we will speak to our correspondent Nick Beake, who is in Brussels. But first, let's turn to our security correspondent, Frank Gardner, who joins us from Doha with the latest developments of the day. Frank, Israel says it's killed an Iranian Navy chief who it claims was responsible for blocking the Strait of Hormuz. How significant is that?
Well, it will be a significant loss operationally for the Iranians. This is the man who commanded the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps Navy. And he was directly responsible, so the Israelis say, for blocking the Strait of Hormuz. Does that mean that suddenly the strait is going to become unblocked and that there will be free passage of oil and gas tankers either side of the Strait of Hormuz? No. The orders will remain. People will carry it on. They may not do it quite so efficiently, but look, what does it take to block the strait? It takes the threat of swarm boats, of drones, of mines, of missiles, of cruise missiles, things like that, all of which Iran has got, despite the pummeling it's had over the last month. So the loss of one officer or another here and there, although it's a small setback to the Iranians, it's not going to stop, it's not going to change the stranglehold, the chokehold they've got over the Strait of Hormuz, which is driving up oil and gas prices around the world.